Hi, Sanjay. So Sanjay is going to talk on entrepreneurship during interesting times. So I'll give a brief intro to Sanjay, and then Sanjay will give his talk. So Sanjay Kasturia has more than 25 years of experience in the telecom industry, like AT&T, Lucent Technologies, Dell, and Cineverse in the areas of sales, business development, operations, and general management. He has also been responsible for setting up and running the manufacturing facility for Lucent Technologies for its switching connectivity products at Pune, India. Prior to this, he worked with Cineverse Technologies as its vice president and managing director, India and subcontinent. He was also the CEO of the company's joint venture from 2009 till 2014. Sanjay now teaches at IIT Delhi. So, Sanjay, welcome to the event. Uh, I invite you to give your talk.
Thank you, Rajesh. Um, Let me just share the screen. I hope you guys are able to see the screen.
Yes, Sanjay, yes.
You're able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Rajesh, for your kind words introducing me to the audience. I'm grateful for this opportunity. While it is mainly a technology conference where everyone talked about areas in fog, edge computing, I guess I'll be the only one talking something very different. While as you already mentioned, I am kind of a guest faculty at IIT Delhi, talk about entrepreneurship, innovation to their undergrad students. And today I will talk about entrepreneurship during these interesting, challenging times, what we are going through. Um, After having spent considerable amount of time in corporate world, in telecom, entrepreneurial bug bit me, and I have the privilege of co-founding two startups. One in the area of edtech, and the other in food tech area. So today I'll focus more on the food tech, as this venture got badly hit during COVID, and how we looked COVID as an opportunity and turned it around. So I'll be talking more from my experience, having started this organization and running it currently. So I basically put some slides over here, which will tell everybody as to what work we are doing at ZFW. ZFW Hospitality is the organization I'm referring to here. So essentially, ZFW is a new age cloud kitchen, new age cloud kitchen disruptor organization looking to capitalize on deployment of its unique kitchen in kitchen model to serve the emerging demand of different brands, FMCG brands. Just to explain in terms of what we do here is, before the COVID hit us, we were into cloud kitchens, and I'm sure most of you would understand what cloud kitchen is all about. Cloud kitchens are the kitchens which don't have anything other than delivery. There are no customers coming in. There is no takeaway. There is no dine-in. It's only meant for delivering food. And we got into this model of setting up the cloud kitchen, buying equipment, putting in there, hiring the kitchen staff, and delivering food to customers in that particular area. So we grew this business from one to multiple cloud kitchens within Delhi NCR, and then we even started expanding in Mumbai till such time COVID hit us. When COVID hit, we had almost a staff of about 50 people working with us, and everything stopped. There was absolutely no business. We didn't know. That time we did not know how much more time it's going to take for business to come back. But then what we did was we were so busy prior to COVID in terms of running operations, we didn't have time to think about what we should be actually doing and where are the opportunities. We were just simply growing business, expanding in terms of adding more kitchens, more people. But then when we got this opportunity to sit back, reflect on what we were doing, we realized that there is a big problem in the industry. And the problem was that a lot of cloud kitchens had already come up, but they were underutilized. Now, in a sense that they were not getting enough orders from customers, because one area which typically used to have 5 to 10, restaurants or stores offering food, now that number had gone beyond 50, 100. So people were suffering in terms of lack of orders, and they didn't know what to do with that. So we took that as an opportunity. And then we also looked at brands, FMCG brands, which also got hit very badly during COVID, because no one, these major brands were either in shopping malls or in high street areas. They had not really explored taking the delivery route. So when we went and spoke to them, they were very keen to explore newer ways to reach out to their customers. So when we built this platform, on one side, we had underutilized distressed kitchen inventory, and these people were ready to offer part of their space, their equipment, the people who were already there to us for a small fee or a small rev share. And on the other side, there were brands who were badly hit by COVID, and they wanted to reach out to customers in some form of fashion. We explained to them that delivery is a good way to delivery business is a good way to reach out to their customers. So it was a good match. We used that as an opportunity and build this model. Yes. So this, if you see, talks about a bit of a journey. We have been, we started this journey way back in 2015, and we were adding stores and stores and stores. But when the COVID hit, everything got stopped, and it changed the direction we were taking, which we are taking right now. And we are really happy because the kind of traction we are getting on this platform is far more compared to what we had envisaged earlier in our previous model. And it's actually solving an industry problem which has a lot of underutilized kitchen inventory all across the country. And also brands now are really looking at, reaching customers home through multiple ways, and delivery business, like e-commerce business, is picking up like anything. So I think this model is really helping us do that. Now, this is typical. Now, before I explain this sheet to you, this slide to you, I would say that very recently we were able to sign up a brand called Baskin Robbins. Now, Baskin Robbins is, I'm sure everybody knows, is one of the largest ice cream brands in the world. They were pretty big in high street shopping malls. Their ice cream parlors were there, but after COVID, everything was closed. So they got very badly hit. But when we explained to them this model, they have given us the mandate to grow within Delhi NCR, and we should be able to roll them out in the next couple of months in Delhi NCR. And if God willing, we'll expand with them in other metros as well. So what happens here is that when a brand like Baskin Robbins, they give delivery to us, they deliver their products to us in a central warehouse. We take care of their logistics, we take care of and then we deliver this to various kitchens from where this is going to be just put in the deep freezers and delivered through delivery staff. So logistics, tech in the back end, and warehousing, everything is provided by us. They just need to do marketing of their product. Now, technology, I would say, is playing a major role in whatever you do post-COVID. Because, for example, we are talking to an organization which is going to provide us an IoT-based solution to ensure that whenever there is a power cut, we get to know about that, and the ice cream does not melt. So immediately, if there's an issue, we will make sure that the product is moved to a proper place where the temperature can be maintained. So we are also looking at ensuring that the quality is maintained for the time the product is with us before it gets delivered to the customer. Look at the model. Model is, in the first step, it's food preparation and packaging. It happens on the kitchen side. This is, and we are onboarding a lot of kitchens which are underutilized. They have available, same people can be trained to deliver different kinds of brands. They have hot equipment, they have deep freezers, everything can be utilized, or even a bare space for which they're already paying a rental. We will leverage that. Second most important part is our own warehousing, logistics, SOP and inventory control, which our team delivers from our central warehouse to kitchens. And order processing happens at the partner kitchens, which is number 3. And number 4 is delivery of the end product, which is either through third party or our own people. So this is the model, which is, this is not going to be possible without tech, a solid platform which gives access to the brands on a real-time basis, and also to the kitchen partners to see how much sales they've done, because end of the day, the sales is going to be captured, and part of that money goes to the kitchen partner in form of a rev share. So there's a lot of invoicing. Kitchen partners are going to be raising invoice on the platform. Platform raises invoice on brands, and there's a real-time analytics and CRM and reconciliation and payout. So these are the 3 major activities. So the reason I'm showing this slide is to basically emphasize on the point that technology is playing a major role in terms of expansion. Look at it this way. We don't own either the kitchens on one side or the brands on the other side. It would be like Uberization of underutilized, distressed kitchen in the food industry. So this is what we are trying to work on. It's a unique concept. We're getting a lot of traction. By the way, we are in the fundraise process, almost in the final stages. We should be able to accomplish this soon. But once that happens, I think we'll move out of Delhi, NCR, move into other major metro cities. Again, some of the lessons learned purely from our experience is that acceptance is a key. COVID wasn't far from us. I mean, this is not the first time, or this is not the last time we've seen things happening like this. Work from home or remote working was already there in the past, but it wasn't, I would say, taken that seriously. I mean, people never had confidence in that mode. Now, it's a proven fact that yes, people can work from home. Be agile and proactive. I mean, we had to make some hard choices. For example, when we got hit by COVID, we are a small startup. We had almost 50 people working. We had to pay for their salaries and all. We immediately took the decision, when we took the decision from moving away from a pure high capex, high opex model to a platform model where we are encouraging brands to come on us without having to spend large capex or even very small opex. We had to retrain people on every side. Our people got retrained. They moved from one function to another. So this was, we had to show our agility here. Of course, don't be afraid to experiment. Digital presence no longer a choice. I mean, you've got to be having, you got to be using newer technologies, and that's what this game is all about. Especially after this pandemic, I think we should be ready to experiment with newer technologies and newer things. Power of vision in people, focused and goal-oriented employees, and I said, so I think focus on this. This has always been the case. Get the best employees, and you don't have to really worry about the next steps. They will do it for you. I would say don't follow the norm. I think what this pandemic gave us was a white space, and we really started working from scratch in the same space. But I think we saw that silver lining. We are really thankful that we are able to move to to this space, which we probably earlier thought about, but never had the courage to do it because we were already busy doing what we were doing then. So just as an FYI, it took us almost like 6-7 months to come back to 60 to 70% of pre-COVID revenues. So we're still far behind, but I think this model gives us a lot of upside, and that's the plus. And again, set stretch goals. So these are some of the things I thought I would share with you. Now, times are always good for entrepreneurship, and especially like India. When I go to IIT Delhi, I'm part of their Department of Management Studies. Work with a lot of startups in tech and non-tech areas. I realize that young minds have a lot of innovation in their mind. There are a lot of good ideas, and from my experience, I make it a point to share them with them, share my experiences with them so that they can benefit from it. I think these are, in addition to this, I also had a privilege to work on another startup called Ativiti AI Technologies, which was, I created that in 2017 to work on, basically my charter was to make a training organization focused purely on emerging technologies like AI and machine learning. And their model was that while everybody was talking about newer technologies, there was dearth of quality trainings available in the market. And what we did was we tied up with a couple of IITs. For example, IIT ISM Dhanbad is one of them, where we also collaborated with some industry majors like IBM and Microsoft, and launched some dual certification courses to benefit basically the industry, people working in the industry, and also students who have just graduated and looking to skill themselves. So those are the kind of, and we saw that every I would say any startup you do, you got to be ready to face all kinds of challenges. Now, if the idea is good, something else may not work out. Now, if there are many things, there are founders who have to have the right kind of experience, the right kind of passion to make it work. So what we have seen is that even if things go wrong, one has to make sure that one should be talking regularly with the team. One should be talking regularly with their loyal customers, with contractors. So I think that communication needs to go on, and one needs to be one should always be open in terms of sharing difficulties with all stakeholders. So I think these are some of the things which I thought I will share with the audience. This probably is not it doesn't go with the theme of the conference, this IEEE conference, but nevertheless, I think I felt maybe I should speak my experiences in my 2 startups in the limited time I've got today. So if anybody has any questions, I will be more than happy. Rajesh, this is it from me.
Thank you, Sanjay. I think we have one question. I'll just read that out, Sanjay.
Sure.
So the question is, are the cloud kitchens primarily commercial kitchens? Can we also leverage idle kitchens from common households? Are there any government regulations on leveraging second-party kitchens?
Yes, that's a very good question. In fact, cloud kitchens these days are basically commercial kitchens, in a sense that these are governed by certain rules and regulations. There are licenses have to be taken. For example, food FSSAI license is a very important license. And then you also have to take health and trading license from municipal corporation wherever you are. So these municipal corporations will will look at some of the factors like hygiene and if it has the right fire safety norms. So these are commercial kitchens, to answer that question. Now, new trend which is coming up is the home kitchens. For example, these ladies at home, if they can, what they do is these days, I mean, I've seen some startups doing that, where these ladies, if they are cooking, let's say, masala dosa for home, they'll cook maybe 2 or 3 extra plates of that and put it on the platform, and that becomes the sourcing point. There is a question there whether they should also be governed by certain rules, but these are too early in the game right now. But that's a good question. Yeah. I hope.
Sanjay, there's one more question.
Sure.
So what is your take on VC funded versus starting small from personal money?
So, okay. So that's another good question. So far, this organization is all bootstrapped. We have not taken the money, but we reached close to about last year we clocked up close to about 2 CR in revenues. This year on the platform, we will probably touch the same, if not more, because of the setback in the first 6 months. So I think the difference between bootstrapping and VC money is, first of all, VCs won't put the money in the initial stages. They always want to put money, in a growing organization. Now, what you mean is angel investors, they like to put the money on the concept initially, but it also depends on whether you want to, if it's a proven model, then you don't have to give so much equity for the money you need. But if it is it's a good concept, then you may have to give a substantial amount of equity of the company. And I go by a simple rule that the founders should never go below 50% in the 3 rounds of funding what you do. So this is like a thumb rule. It works most of the time, but not all the time. So Rajesh, to answer this question, if let's say a founder gives out more money, more equity for a small money initially, and so that he becomes less than 50%, he loses control. So it's not good for the organization also. So what if, let's say, he gets money and loses control? The VC or the funder is not going to run the organization. So it's not good for the organization also.
Sanjay, there's one more question. So Amazon has launched food delivery service with Amazon Food in India. How's the popularity analysis of mobile food ordering?
So Amazon actually has been trialing in Bangalore area primarily. They have not. They are coming in competition to Zomato and Swiggy. I'm sure everybody uses them here in India. They are coming in competition to that. So far, we've not seen them in Delhi NCR area. So we'll have to see how different they are going to be. I mean, we all have seen Swiggy and Zomato. Swiggy basically never allowed restaurants to deliver food. They always had their own riders. But then what happens is if the rider is not there, then my kitchen is not going to be visible to a customer who wants to order, right? But then Zomato addressed that issue by saying, okay, in case their riders are not available, kitchen can deliver. So that was a hybrid model which they did. In case of Amazon, we'll have to see what new they bring on the table. It's a very, very competitive play right now, but and these are 2 very large players in the food right now as we speak. So we don't have much experience dealing with Amazon in food delivery.
Okay, Sanjay, I think we are done with the question. Thanks a lot for your. It was a different kind of talk, although it elicited quite a bit of interest. There were a few questions on cloud kitchens. There was also a question on, is there a real example of a cloud kitchen? So you want to answer that?
Yeah, so cloud, the basic meaning is the same when we talk about cloud. Cloud kitchen basically means no one is able to reach there. It's like I can use some space on some floor which meets some fire safety norms and other norms. Their customers are not supposed to come. Only these are created for delivery reasons. The reason this industry picked up is because of real estate. For example, if you have to start a food delivery out of a mall, it's very expensive. It doesn't make business sense. So people started building these kitchens in industrial areas where the space was easily available. Uh, so the whole idea is when you order, for example, proximity has lost its meaning, Rajesh. Let's say if you're staying in a particular area and ordering from Zomato and you have kitchen next doors, very unlikely that the food will come from there unless you specifically order. So if you like Chinese, it can come from 3-4 kilometers. That's the typical radius, these companies allow, and food will come from anywhere. So it's all cloud. Basically means you don't know where it is. That's food quality is monitored. That's about it. Nothing more than that.
Okay, Sanjay, thanks a lot. It was an interesting talk, and
Thanks
a lot for agreeing to talk at the event. So we appreciate that. So
Rajesh,
yes, Kaushik, go ahead.
I just want to add because I know that Sanjay. Again, thank you. But I just want to add that I think your topic is very relevant because you may have a great technology, but if you don't know how to solve a problem, and create a business model and scale the business, then there's no point in having great technology. So I think that every tech conference should have an element of entrepreneurship, leadership, because it's about taking the technology and solving real world problems, capitalizing on the pain points that exist, and so I really think that it's very inspiring, actually. Such a simple but powerful concept, right? And so I definitely think that your topic is very unique and relevant, and I'm sure that a lot of people would want to maybe even reach out to you, for maybe guidance in their own entrepreneurial journey. So really,
thank you. Thank you.
Sure. So thanks a lot, Sanjay. So with this talk, we come to the end of today's program.